the millage, is that a statewide election or what is that?
The millage is strictly for Ward 4 of Bogalusa City within the city limits. So it's basically the school district. They will have other elections across the state that they like runoffs from the previous election, but particularly for this millage, it's strictly for Bogalusa City schools.
Gotcha. Of course, it's something that the school system wants. Is there any reason anybody wouldn't want this passed?
If there's any reason that anyone would, if this was a new tax coming onto the books, which was going to increase the amount of taxes individuals were paying on property tax, then I can see why people wouldn't want it passed. Because Louisiana, is a state that doesn't like taxes. But this is something that's been on the books for the last 20 years. We have some taxes been on the books 40 and 50 years. So it's a renewal. It's not an increase, but it's just a renewal. So I don't see why anyone wouldn't want it passed. But, people have their personal reasons, which they're all entitled to. But this is nothing new. And my finance department has been great fiduciary people of the taxpayers' dollars. We get audited every year. No findings of any mismanagement of funds. So I don't understand why certain people have personal vendettas against not passing tax, other than it's personal against individuals and not the system. And we're doing a lot of great things in the system since I got there. So I can't speak for what happened prior to me getting there. All I can speak on is what I've done since I've got there with what I've had.
So just to be clear, this tax is to help the Bogalusa City school system in more ways, if any, that it could hurt it.
Yes, it is. Like I mentioned earlier, when our students want things, I gave an example of the band. They needed new uniforms. Most bands have to raise money. We didn't have to raise money. We paid for those uniforms out of the general fund. So this tax goes into the general fund, and the general fund is used to run the operations of the schools, be it paying bills, providing services to students, in some cases paying some salaries, programs that we bring in to help benefit the students with educational programs. So it's a plethora of things that we can use these funds to, and it's all geared toward the students. So yes, we need this tax passed to continue moving forward in Bogalusa. As you can see in the last 2 years, our scores have increased slightly. So we're still trying to continue that trajectory upward, where we can continue to better the lives of our students. And every little dollar counts. So we can't afford to lose it. But if it doesn't pass, parents are still going to expect us to do the same thing we've been doing to support their students. They still got to eat. They still got to ride the bus. Still got to put gas in the bus. They still got to keep the lights on. Still got to pay the water bills. And this tax specifically helps with all of that.
Gotcha. And you're going on what, year 2 now?
Yeah. So June 19th will be year 2.
So what's the long term? Like, how does it work as far as when the board, brings in a new superintendent? Is it like a NFL contract where it's 4-year deal, 5-year deal? How does that work?
So anytime a superintendent come in, the board can give anywhere from a 2-year to a 4-year contract. So when I came in 2 years ago, I asked the board for a 4-year contract, because if you're going to affect real change, you can't do it in 2 years. I need to have the confidence of the board that they trust me within those 4 years to make some change. Now, when it gets to that last year of that contract, the board has to let me know in advance if they plan to renew it, or they can say we're going to extend it. Vice versa, if I plan to not renew my contract, I have to let the board know, hey, I'm not renewing my contract. You all need to start a search for a new superintendent.
So how does that work from your eyes? Like, what is your year 4 window and goal for you to determine whether or not, okay, I want to renew it? And let's just say the board is saying, you know what? We like Dr. Hurst. We like the direction the school system is going. In your mind, what makes that decision for you to want to stay in Bogalusa or depart and go somewhere else?
That's a great question. Let's say this. I love where I'm at. Let me give you a little background. I came from a small school system. Now, I know Bogalusa school system was much larger back in the 90s and early 2000s, but the system now that I'm leading mirrors the exact school system that I grew up in, which is St. Helena. 3 schools, same population of students, small rural community, You know, Bogalusa has a lot more industry than St. Helena. So I love this type of setting. So me coming to Bogalusa wasn't a no-brainer. And when I came and I was luck when the board selected me as a superintendent, I knew that I needed to be here at least 4 years. So that's why I asked for a 4-year contract. I didn't want no 2 years. I didn't want no three. Give me a 4-year contract. And then at the end of that 4 years, if this district is still moving forward and if it's much better than it is when that time comes, I wanted to continue that trajectory. But if I'm not improving this district, then I can't hold this district back. So that'll be a decision in year 4. Are we better off now than we were when I got here? And if we're better off and we're moving forward, then I want to continue that. But if I'm not leading this district in the right direction, then I have to make a personal decision. Do I let someone else come and do it and maybe do a better job and go seek somewhere else? So it's all about a personal decision. And of course, it depends on the board. If the board is happy with what I'm doing and we are improving, and it's not just about test scores, it's about growing students in all facets of life, making sure that the system has policies and processes and procedures in place that's conducive to everyone. So it's a lot of little things that's going to factor into that. And of course, family. You know, my family, my kids are in high school and will be graduating in a year or two, and another one about 3-4 years. So it just depends on a lot of factors. But I can say this, I've already, told the board that I'm interested in staying longer. I enjoy Bogalusa. I love it. It's a small town, very passionate. I've never seen a town so passionate about the community until I
We're
came
gonna
to
talk about
Bogalusa.
homecoming at some point. We're gonna talk
Yeah,
about it.
we need to get to that. Yeah,
We're gonna talk about it.
some stuff straight about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
so when people get on Facebook and they complaining and they want to blast people, that's happening everywhere. That's happening in my hometown. So this ain't nothing new to me. I haven't seen this movie before. So it
Yeah.
doesn't faze me when people get out there and no matter how good you do, you can always have somebody who's thinking that you're not doing good enough. And that's fine. That's their personal opinion. But I can't let that dictate how I'm going to lead this system. I still have to continue to make sure that I support my employees so they can support the students and make sure we put processes and procedures in place for them to be successful. So it's a lot that goes into running the school system.
Well, last question on that. I know you mentioned the growth of the school system and, where would it look like or what would it look like in year 4? Can we say that in 2025 it's better than it was in 22 or 23? Are we on the upward trend?
Right now, we're on the upper trend. So that's two facets. When you look at the academics, right now we're on an upper trend for us improving our test scores. Is it where we want it to be? No, but we're not going backwards. Ironically, the state is changing the scoring system. So right now, Bogalusa City Schools is a C. When they change that new scoring system, it's automatically going to drop Bogalusa City School Systems down to an F. That doesn't only affect Bogalusa City Schools, that's all schools across the state. So you might have an A district that might drop down to a C district. I was talking to the superintendent in St. Tammany. Right now they have 7 A schools. When the state changed this scoring method, scoring rubric, all their schools are going to drop from A's to either B's or C's. So that's going to be another factor that that's another challenge that we're going to have to address because the public, they're not going to understand, wait a minute, how you go from a C to an F? It's a lot that goes into that. And Ms. Tillman, my chief academic officer, has been educating the board at the board meeting. We went to Rotary and explained the changes that are coming. But to people who just don't attend those meetings and don't really delve into it, not going to understand. All they're going to see is we were C and now we're at F, but not going to understand that there was a change at the state level because they changed the state level, the scoring rubric changed. Because the scoring rubric changed, the C is now an F, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, no, I got you.
we're going to have to overcome that challenge. So now that's the academic side. Operational side is making sure right now that we're overhauling our policy manual. We have some policies that's been on the books for 30, 40 years that's outdated. So we're going through our entire policy manual to make sure that our policies are up to date. They support students, support employees, and that follow the law, and it also protects the district. So that's a monumental task. Improving professional learning communities for our staff, growing leadership. We want to create a pipeline of leadership that when a principal retire, that assistant is ready to go. There's no drop off in what the school is doing. It's running like a well-oiled machine. But in order to do that, we got to make sure we build a foundation so these leaders can grow in that foundation. And when it's time to step into that leadership role, it's not because of who I know, it's because I have demonstrated the skill set that I can improve student lives by my everyday actions on this campus by being an instructional leader.
And, you know, from what I just heard, you was talking about basically grooming the assistant to become the principal.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to groom from within inside. So
now you don't got to answer what I'm about to say, but I heard Kawanda gonna be the principal at BHS in a few years, Drew. That's all. You don't have to answer nothing. You ain't got to say nothing. That's just what I heard. That's what I heard. But no, but really, I mean, it all makes sense. And when you talk about the test scores, right, and you know the school system's grade is about to drop, right? Now, Drew, when you were graduating in 04.
Mm-hmm. When we say the school system, not only Bogalusa, Washington Parish, St. Tammany Parish, the whole state grades are about to drop when they implement this new system.
So everybody's grades about to drop, but specifically BCS. Let me tell you why I want to talk about our school system. Uh-huh. Now, I promise you this, Drew. When I graduated in 10, everybody in my class, and probably in 09 and 08, when they went to college, we were taking remedial math our first semester, like everybody. Why is that the case? Why is that always the trend? Drew, Dr. Hurst, anybody? Y'all know why?
Look, man, like I went through the same thing, man. It was a lot of us had to take transitional courses, not only for math, but also for ELA, for English and literature, things of that nature. We had to do the same thing when we got there. I think, now my personal opinion, like I said, I'm not on that level to understand what the process is, but I know preparation and expectations in our system for years has been far below the bar. It was just about, I know for a fact I had like 3 or 4 people in my class that couldn't read, like genuinely could not read, in high school. You know what I mean? So the bar that was set was so low. So one thing I realized is I was only really book smart in Washington Parish and Bogalusa area. Once I stepped outside of those areas, I was probably on a 9th grade level, as a senior in high school. And that's just because the expectations in Bogalusa has always been set so low as far as what it takes in order to be proficient in what area. Now, why is that the case? Is it because of the educators? Is it because of administration? I really don't know. Is it curriculum? I really don't know. The only thing I do know is that has been the storyline for the majority of people that has come through our system is, when you leave here, you learn quickly that, man, I got to spend this whole first semester just catching up to everybody else, and that's what really causes such a high dropout rate for a lot of Bogalusa kids that do attend college. Is it's almost like having to redo high school all over again and trying to be a freshman at college at the same time.
That's a dollar amount too. Think about all the remedial class you got to take. You taking out financial aid to pay for 1 or 2 more extra classes that could be going somewhere else.
Yep.
I experienced it as well coming out of high school. When I went to Southern, I had to take a few remedial courses. And true to what you said, Brother Drew, is when I went to Southern, I can remember it was probably 20 of us from St. Helena under the tree hanging out every day. And when it was all said and done, probably about 3 of us out that whole group actually graduated. And they end up dropping out. And now they're doing good now, but they had to take another path. And that's another thing. College is not for everyone. And that's why in Bogalusa, we're trying to revamp our high school to make sure that we have a career path and a college path for our students. And that comes with offering more of those CTE programs such as architecture and construction, arts, audio, video, technology, and communication, which I would love for you guys to come in and mentor our kids on that. Business
Shout out to the
management,
Bogalusa Sports Network. Keep going. I'm sorry.
human services, information technology. So we're trying to add courses to expose our students to those careers. But even with that, you still have to find the right people to come in and deliver that and teach them that. So it's a challenge all the way around. When I graduated from Southern University in 2001, I probably had close to 200, 300 people graduated in the College of Education. I went back 10 years later to a friend's, a relative's graduation. They probably had 5 people graduating in the College of Education. And that's across the nation. So what you find now is people aren't going in education. They're going in elementary ed. And when they come out, they will either be elementary ed or a coach. So now you're having your educators now they had other careers. And then they're jumping into the education career late, which means now you have to catch them up to speed because they didn't take the traditional courses. They didn't get the classroom management. They didn't get all of that. So they have to get in a program after they've been in a career 3, 4, or 5, a different career 3, 4, or 5 years. Not saying they can't be great, but it's a bigger struggle for them to catch up to where they need to be. And then now we have to train the teachers while they're trying to teach. It's like flying a plane and building it at the same time. And that's not just Bogalusa. That's everywhere. That's everywhere across the state, across the nation. So when I was in high school and grade school, all my teachers lived in my community. That was a career. If you were a teacher, you were successful in my community. But as those teachers retired, they were not replaced by college graduates who went in education. So therefore, you start to see a shift in the educational system. Why would I pay Southern University $30,000 to get out and make $30,000 when I can go work in a plant and make $80,000 straight out of high school? Or I had a friend who went and got a 2-year degree in IT, and 2 years later he's making $100,000. I came back to high school, my hometown, and was making $38,000 and thought I was balling. But so people are choosing to live now, not later. So they're going to make that money, and they're going to choose a career where they can get that most bang for their buck early on.
So let me ask you this, and this is like kind of like something that I've been just kind of observing throughout the community just in general. Like, and I hear it all the time. I don't know specifically the reason for it, but I do hear it a lot. Is there an issue with nepotism in our system?
Let me address it. Anytime you're in a small,
if you want to answer, you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
No. I'm gonna address it. Anytime I'm speaking of my experience. Now, I've been in Bogalusa 2 years. I've heard the stories, but I can only deal with what I'm dealing with. Anytime you're in a small community, in some capacity, you're going to be working with relatives. Especially in a large organization like a school system. So some see it as nepotism, and it could be. Some see it as, well, that person was best qualified for the job, but just because they're related to somebody, they got the job because they related to somebody. So I can see it both ways, but when you're in a small community, 9 times out of 10, you're going to work with your relatives. So what I try to do is put the best people in the position to do the job. I don't care who you're related to, because anybody that I hire as a superintendent is a reflection of my leadership. And I know at the end of the day, if they don't perform, the board ain't gonna look at them. They're gonna look at me because I hired them. So my leadership style is I try to grow people, but then I try to put people in a place that they can be successful, and if they're successful, then the kids in the school or that department would be successful. And a lot of people not going to agree with the decisions, and I get that.
Yeah, I was just curious because it was such a that's something that I see thrown around a lot whenever they talk about the school system and different issues with the school system. Is I see that nepotism word thrown around a lot, which like I haven't worked with the school system, alongside the school system in years. So I really don't necessarily know the personnel that well to say if it is or if it isn't. I was just curious to know because I see it all the time.
Mhm.
And that's that kind of just piggybacked off of the question about having individuals in place or having educators in place that can handle the load that's required of them, and I know that if there was a problem with nepotism, then that'll definitely lend to that problem as well. But if are confident in the people that you're putting in those positions, then I can't get upset, with that. I can't penalize anybody if they are qualified for a position and you place them there. I can't penalize them just because their aunt works somewhere else or their cousin works here or their brother works here. I'm not upset at that at all. But as long as it is based off of merit and based off of qualifications, then I can't see why that's an issue.
So, I tell my principals, I say, look, one thing I'm not going to do is micromanage your school.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm not going to do is tell you who to hire.
Mm-hmm.
So, because at the end of the day, if that employee does not work out for you,
Mm-hmm.
what you can't say is that I told you to hire Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why your scores are going down, or that's why this happened. No, you hired Kevin. And
Mm-hmm.
but because Kevin ain't performing, I'm not coming to Kevin. I'm coming to have a conversation with you.
Okay.
That's how I lead. And I do that with my
Mm-hmm.
principals, and I do that within my central office.
Okay.
I
So
hired a
so
go
yeah,
ahead.
so you're not that like you don't take authority too heavily in the area of hiring and firing, and you leave it to the principals, basically. In so many words, you put the weight of on their shoulders when it comes to their personnel, or do
Yes,
you?
because when I evaluate them, when Ms. Tillman or I evaluate them, we're
Mm-hmm.
evaluating them on their performance, and their
Mm-hmm.
performance is depending on who they hire to do the job and who they lead. So that's why
Okay,
I
all right,
specifically
that's
do
good to know.
not interfere
Yeah.
with the operations. And people have a misconception, like the school board. You know, Bobby Jindal in 2011 passed Act One. Prior to that, school boards did all the hiring and firing. So if Kevin wanted a
Mm-hmm.
job, he had a school board member who that liked him or his uncle. Hey, all he had to do was say, "Hey, I need Kevin to get a job." Bobby Jindal changed all that. So
Mm-hmm.
all the hiring and firing comes under me as a superintendent, and the school board does
Mm-hmm.
not have any authority to tell me who to hire and who to fire. So that's
Okay.
day to day operations, and that comes under me.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that they changed it. I thought it was still the same, like that it still had to be, go through the board as far as
No, and a lot
hiring
of
fire.
people still believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm dealing with an employee and maybe have to let an employee go, of course, people are calling board members.
Mm-hmm.
But board members go to trainers and they understand that, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell the superintendent what to do with day to day operations. The board has three functions: to hire and fire the superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
to set the budget for the
Mm-hmm.
district, approve the budget, and set policy for the district. Those are the only three functions of a school board in the state of Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get it, I was a former, just for reference, I was a former school board member in St. Helena.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that coming into this
Mm-hmm.
job, I knew how to work with the board because I was a board member. So
Right.
my main thing was to educate them on the law because in superintendent's contracts, it's just the same thing. If a board member say, "Hey, I need you to hire Kel," and I say no because he or she is interfering in day to day operations, that's violating my contract, my job duties. You hire me to do the hire and fire.
Right. Okay.
You hire me to run this school system. Of course, I do run things by my board as a collective, let them know that's what I'm doing and what's going on. I keep them very informed about what's going on because I know they're going to get the phone calls. I
Mm-hmm.
know people are going to be upset when certain decisions are made. So I inform my board, hey, I made this decision. Just know you might be getting a phone call. Here's the why. And I leave it
So
at
they
that.
already prepared for it whenever they're not blindsided by anything. I can definitely I can get with that. I can totally understand that. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
I was curious about that because I just wanted clarification on what the process was. Because I think that's what a lot of confusion that happens in the community is about is people don't really know the processes and checks and balances and things of that nature when it comes to, who makes these decisions, who doesn't, and who's capable of making decisions and who's not, So, but that's the only reason I was really kind of referencing it. I kept seeing that a lot.
You got to think about it. If a board member tell me to hire a certain person to be principal, and yet they evaluate me on the performance of the district, and I hire this principal off the pressure of a board member because I'm afraid I'm not going to get a contract renewal or whatever, and then that school that I place that person that scores tank, how can they evaluate me on that when I was forced to put that person there?
Right.
So that's
Right.
why they kind of made that law.
Okay, I got you.
And kind of to backtrack on the test scores and everything about that. I know when the 4-day school week was implemented, a lot of people were excited, but now can we say it's beneficial for the students or for the system?
Let me say this, and I've been saying this since day one. People, constituents, or employees automatically think I hate the 4-day work week or I want to get rid of it. I worked in a 4-day work week when I first started teaching in St. Helena. And I'll be the first to say, employees love a 4-day work week. I love a 4-day work week. But as a superintendent who's leading the district, I have to think about the bigger picture. Is it benefiting the students? Now, one thing I said, if we show continued growth, then the 4-day work week can stay on the table. But if we're not showing growth, if employees are not coming to work, if students are not coming to school on a 4-day work week, then we're going to have to make a decision of going back to the 5 days. Now, when you go to a new schedule where there's 4 or 5 days, you have to give it time to see if it's going to work. You can't be a one and done. So we grew the first year in the 4-day work week. We grew the second year in the 4-day work week. Did we grow a lot? No, but we didn't go backwards. So I'm still evaluating it. And the thing about it, the students are taking the test now, and those scores don't come back until November. We get some preliminary scores in July, but we really don't know how the district perform until late November. So that's when we'll start planning for the following year to see if doing the school calendar, see if we need to go back to 5 days or 4 days. And it is a great recruitment tool. It is. But at the end of the day, as a superintendent, I have to make the decision that, if it's not really benefiting the students as a whole, then we're going to have to make that tough decision. But we'll do that when that time comes. So as of next year, we're going on a 4-day work week. We've already approved the calendar for next year.
And it is 4 days next year. 4 days. All right. Because I was going to say, that was my next question. You talk about a recruitment tool. So, what is the plan, or I guess you're utilizing this to bring students back, or what is that plan to get students to come back that have left, or to keep kids in the Bogalusa City school system?
All right. So my answer to that is you have to create a system where it almost make it impossible for a parent to take their kids somewhere else. So I'm not going to fault a parent for wanting to do what they think is best for their child. You're the parent, and if you feel that your child, no matter what they are, what they're doing, is not benefiting them, and you have better options, I can't fault a parent for that. My job is to make sure that we train our teachers up to make sure, and our administrators to make sure they provide the best experience, both culturally and academically, at the school, to make parents want to keep their kids there, to make kids want to come to school. Now, I get it. Some kids ain't coming back. They're not. But we don't want to continue to lose kids either. So we have to create an environment that's safe, that's conducive to learning, that shows academic academic progress. So when a parent's weighing, you know what? I don't have to drive to Covington. I don't have to drive to Franklin. We have great programs right here, so my kid can stay here. But we have to put those things in place to make parents feel comfortable and safe, and knowing that their kids are safe at school. We have to create that culture where the kids want to be at school and be safe. And we have to support our employees where they have the tools to make sure they provide that educational experience for students so they want to be in that classroom. So it's a multitude of things that we have to do. to create the environment. And it's going to take time. It's not like hitting a light switch and it's going to turn on overnight. It's going to take some time to rebuild that culture in Bogalusa City Schools. For me learning about the history, it was thriving 20 years ago. I mean, busting, thriving. The decline has been steady over the years. So my goal is, how do you stop that decline? We have to create a culture where students want to be there. And we have a lot of great students. I'm going to tell you something. I've been to some school systems and some schools, even when I was working at the state, that I didn't want to walk on the campus. It was like walking on East Side High. But when I go to Bogalusa High School or Central, it's as calm as it's as calm as you want it to be. Now we have our set of issues, just like any other school in the state, but for the most part, we have great students and we have great staff.
So would you let your child come be a student in the Bogalusa City school system?
If I lived here, my kids would be in the Bogalusa City school system. My son is a junior and the other one is 8th grade. I asked them, Daddy going to Bogalusa, do you want to come? I let them choose because I don't want to uproot them from what they know and all their friends, because that's where they've been to school at all their life. Mm-hmm. I gave them the option. And one of them kind of thought about it, but he said, nah, Dad, I'm going to stay with my friends. So I gave them that option. And I wouldn't force them. Maybe if they were younger, elementary age, and, young family, probably. But I drive an hour every day back and forth. So that's another thing, putting a toll on them. But if I lived here, my kids would be in school in Bogalusa.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Quick question.
You had something, Drew?
Yeah, before you move forward. So I heard you mention that, you putting boots on the ground at the different schools. If you had to give yourself a grade on how your staff and administrators feel about you and your leadership so far in the system, like what would you grade yourself as?
Man, okay. So I'm never the one to say that I'm perfect.
Right.
So I just did the board just evaluated me, and the evaluation is 1 to I forgot 1 to 3 or 1 for 3 being the highest or 4 being the highest. I forgot what it was. So I did not want a perfect score because I know I'm not perfect. So I want my staff to be honest with me. I have one-on-ones with my central office staff and my principals. I say, hey, how do you feel about the decisions that I'm making? What can I do better? What do I need to work on? And these are one-on-one conversations, and I let them know this conversation is between me and you. I'm not going to go out and say, hey, Drew said I ain't hitting on nothing. I need to work on this. And then I asked them about the system. What can the system do better? How can we, make sure everybody work well together? And I learned a lot by having those one-on-ones with my staff. Now, every superintendent can't do that because they have larger systems. I can do that because I have a smaller system. And by doing that, I learned a lot about the system, and I learned a lot about the changes I needed to make. And that has been very beneficial. And my staff know, especially since I have an open door policy. If you have a concern, a question, or even an idea, bring it to me.
I know one thing, one person that's going to tell you the truth, Michelle Hopkins. Michelle Hopkins going to tell you how it is. She going to look at you in your face in your office and tell you where you slacking. Hey,
so if you had to say what was your biggest complaint without giving out the name of somebody what it was, what would be the thing that they felt like that you need to press the most about changing, and what was the thing that they said you did the best, as far as so far?
So it's funny you asked that. So when I first came, I met with every employee in the central office, and I would say 80% of them said they wanted everybody to be held accountable. I heard it across the board. They want this district to move forward, but they wanted accountability. So everybody say that they want everybody to do their job, and they want changes, they want better. But sometimes if that change affect you and you got to change what you're doing, no, that's not a good idea.
It's a problem, yeah.
Everybody else is changing, it's good. So everybody everybody wanted accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to be trusted. Everybody wanted someone they can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I brought some level of that to the system.
Okay.
But it's funny. People won't change until it affects them.
To affect them, yeah. Okay. My last question I'm gonna ask you, and I'm gonna let Kale move on. What's the hardest, if you can disclose this, what's the hardest decision you've had to make so far as a superintendent?
You know what? Every decision, I can't think of one that's harder than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that I understand about as a superintendent making a decision, no matter what decision I make, no matter how hard it is, or it could be an easy decision.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gonna be happy, somebody gonna be mad.
Mm-hmm.
So in this system, no matter what decision I make, somebody gonna like it, somebody not gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't make decisions off like I'm on Facebook. I need to get all these likes, so I'm gonna make this the decision. Or sometimes my decisions are not well liked. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm gonna leave this district, I believe that's the best way forward for this district.
Mm-hmm.
And people have their various reasons, maybe because they don't like the change because it affects them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not their vision of where they want the
Mm-hmm.
district to go. They have it, you know, that's up to them. But that's how I live by my philosophy. I have to make a tough decision, no matter what it is. It comes down to the simplest thing, you know, letting kids out of school for weather.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in some cases, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
You let them out for the weather, and then it don't rain. Oh, they don't want to go to school. They shouldn't let them out. You don't let them out, and it rains. Oh, they don't care about the kids. They want the kids to be in the weather. So it's those decisions, no matter what you do.
Hey, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I know some parents is watching this, man. They don't want to accept that to be true, but that is true, man. Like I see half of the parents fussing about their kids having to go to school. Then I see half of them mad as hell that they home. Even during the summer, I mean, even for holidays, anything, you know, they'll be like, man, damn, these kids get out for anything. And then if you know, if something happens, then they shouldn't have been there in the first place. You know,
Yeah,
it's funny, man. You know, to hear, but I know it's not. You know, I know that's a difficult, and which is the reason why I'm asking you these type questions, because one of the things that I've always battled with just society in general is like no one is empathetic to what people in leadership positions have to go through. You know, they struggle with understanding that the decisions that you're making is not personalized in any type of way. You know, we only see things from one perspective on one side of the aisle, and that's what I feel like the biggest separation between our community and the school system and our community and politics is, and our politicians, is the fact that everybody feels like that they can be a better superintendent. Everybody feels like that they can be a better head coach. Everybody feels like that they can be a better, you know, teacher, or everybody has these ideas about feeling like, oh man, I can do this job. I can do this. There's a lack of respect for what it takes, you know, to be in these type of positions. So I like asking those questions because it gives someone a chance to see an opposing angle to what they have created or developed in their head. And a lot of people's opinions are always based off of what they heard somebody else say about individuals.
exactly.
Because if I had to knock you for anything, it would be that you don't talk enough, man. You know, and that's, you're not visible enough, you don't talk enough. And I know you have this mentality that, you know, that's you're more focused on, you know, the goal and things of that nature. But I will tell you this: I'm from the Bogalusa community, been here, born and raised. And one thing about changing anything here, you're gonna have to be visible. You're gonna have to listen, even if the person that's telling you some shit is complete bullshit. You're gonna be like, man, that is not how it go. You still gonna have to act interested. You still gonna have to be like, you know what, man, I never thought of that, man. I appreciate you for bringing that to my attention. That's the only way that it works. If you feel approachable to the people, then they tend to listen. And that's one of the things that I asked a lot of people around before we did this interview if they knew you, and they just don't. You know, they don't know who you are. They don't know where you come from. They don't know, you know, what you do. They've never seen you in the barbershops. They've never seen you in these, you know, different areas, you know, and I know that sounds so retro, but this place is retro. You know, this place is still, you know, we still have newspapers. And I tell people, man, that's crazy. You know, it's like most people get their news around here from newspapers, which is insane, but that's the community and area that we live in. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not the type to tell anybody how to do their job. I am telling you what I've seen for years about this place. Is crazy.
You
That
know who
look,
else
me and my
said the
brother
same
laugh
thing?
about this. Oh man.
You- Coach Jones. Coach Jones said the same thing. He said, now this is about him. He's saying during his time
Mhm.
as a head football coach in Bogalusa, his one regret was that he wasn't in the community as much as he felt like he should be.
Mhm.
That's one thing. But I'm gonna give you a chance to respond, Dr. Hurst. I know we gotta move on
Yeah,
tonight, but
I've heard that. I've also heard that, man, you're more visible than the last superintendent. They never went to the schools.
Mhm.
They never went in the community. Maybe went to a football game here and there. But I make it a point to be in the
Mhm.
schools, visible weekly. I don't just sit in the office. I go to Rotary. I haven't made it to the churches yet. I admit I can't be everywhere.
Mhm.
I do my shopping in Walmart. I do come to community events when I can, but
Mhm.
I also am a father whose
Mhm.
kids are very active in sports.
Mhm.
So I have to have a balance. You
Mhm.
know, I make sure that I catch an athletic event, all sports throughout the year.
Mhm.
I want the track to see me. I want the softball girls to see me. I want the baseball team to see me, that I'm supporting them. I try to go to the balls, like the military ball that they have. But
Mhm.
again, I'm still a father and a husband,
Mhm.
and my kid had a track meet last night.
Mhm.
So sometimes I have to choose between going to my kids' events versus going to a Bogalusa kids event. So I have to balance that.
Mhm.
And I go to community events when I can, but I can't make them
Mhm.
all. Now, I may go to the events that these individuals wasn't at.
I was
Mhm.
just about to say that. Look, I was gonna play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
If the superintendent is at the board meetings and you not there, is that his fault? If the superintendent's at the football games every Friday night and you not there, is it his fault? If the superintendent's at open house and you not there, is it his fault? That's what I was gonna ask.
Like the parade, the Mardi Gras parade. I made it a point to walk the whole parade with the ROTC because I wanted people to see who the superintendent was. Now, of course, I couldn't stop and talk to everybody,
Mhm.
but I want them to know, oh, that's a superintendent. So, and I get it. Some people say, well, he's not approachable. I get that. I get that a lot. I ain't never,
Mhm.
I got that. I've gotten it everywhere I went.
Mhm.
But once people approach me and they learn me, then they say, wow, this guy right here, man, like I'm that fun loving, joking style, but serious type of guy.
Mhm.
But one of my drawbacks, and I admit to this, I'm not as foregoing as running after building relationships. Now, once I get to know
Mhm.
you, I do whatever I need for you.
Mhm.
So, I have to have that work balance life
Mhm.
because I do have a family and I am a father
Mhm.
to two hot teenage boys. So, and I told my kids, hey, son, I'm not going to be able to make a game.
Mhm.
You know, I'm going to be in Bogalusa. And they understand that.
Mhm.
So, one of the challenges I'm having now, my senior, he's going to be a senior next year, he's going to start. So, I go to a lot of the Bogalusa City football games.
Mhm.
But this year, I'm afraid that I may not get to go to any because this is my son's senior year.
Mhm.
Then people
Hey,
gonna say,
I say this, Dr. Hurst. I've seen you with more than I've seen some of these parents. I'll leave it at that. But look, we got about 10 more minutes. There's some things I want to run through. Okay. Like I said, we got about 10 minutes. Let's talk homecoming. Okay. Let's talk homecoming. That big debacle last year. I started off saying I said something on Facebook as far as, you know, I think it was starting at 2 o'clock and ending at kickoff. And I was like, from my point of view and from people that don't live in Bogalusa, by the time we get there, it's 4 o'clock. That's when the party started. Why are we not extending this? We come back and you caught a lot of negativity when you asked for, the class to donate $2,010 at the last minute. So let's talk about that.
yeah. So let me tell you something. St. Helena homecoming is just as big as Bogalusa, and same atmosphere. But my thing, I've always been on the fan side or the alumni side of homecoming. I never had to be the superintendent of a homecoming. And then when you're coming off a couple of tragedies that has happened at school events, as a superintendent, I gotta put safety first. Now, am I saying that alumni that's coming back is going to be dangerous or do stuff crazy? No, I'm not saying that. But like you say, hindsight is all 2020. If I don't put protocols and procedures in place and something happened, the first thing they're gonna say is, well, he should have did this. He shouldn't have let them go past 7 o'clock. He knew they was gonna act a fool. But at the same time, we want our alumni to come home, have a great time, but at the same time, go in the stadium and support the football team. If we got more people outside at 7 o'clock, 7:30 than we got in the stadium, that's a problem. What are we here for? Because we don't have a football game, there's no homecoming festivities. So my thing was, okay, let's do this orderly. Let's make sure that everybody is safe. But at the same time, we need to shut it down at an appropriate time. But people don't see behind the scenes that I'm dealing with the Bogalusa police. They don't want to go past a certain time. If I overrule them and they leave and then something happens, then that's enough. See, we don't discuss all that out in the open and in the public. We just had to make a decision. So we want the community to come home. We want them to have a good time, but we also want to support the kids. So Kev and Drew, I'm gonna challenge y'all. We're gonna set up a committee for homecoming. Now, this is an executive decision. We're not going past game time. I'm just saying it right now, so everybody get ready to understand that. But I want you to come and have a good time. But I challenge you, each class, to make a donation to a particular organization in the school.
No, wait a minute, Dr. Hurst. We're gonna have to meet in the middle. Okay. We're gonna have to meet. You can't say you want us to donate some money, but we're not doing it. 7 o'clock, we're not doing it. I will say this. See, y'all, it was a lot of finger pointing last year. You had BPD saying it's not us. You had the school system saying, like the high school, it's not us. You had the school board saying, it's not us. You had the city of Bogalusa saying, it's not us. So it was a lot of finger pointing going on saying, we want to extend it. Now, I will say, as far as the safety aspect of it, I always saw that point of view. I was strictly speaking just us driving down, like the people that live as far as I do, those are the ones that, okay, are we really going to have a good time? Now, shout out to the city of Bogalusa and the citizens. Last year, it was safe. Great event. I like the move to the practice field. We can see everybody's tent. We can see some movement in case, some things are happening. The police department, they weren't being all police-like. They were just, there to secure it. As far as, I like how last year ended. Last year, we all left out. It wasn't like, okay, the DJ stopped, but we all were cleaning up. But we knew it ended at a certain time, but we were still out just congregating.
And that's what I mean. The DJ's going to stop, but we know people go still talk. We know everybody's not going in the game. But there's also a financial cost to this. We have to pay all those police officers to be out there. That's a big, and you don't want to take it from athletics because they're working hard to raise money for football. That's why we want everybody to go in the game, at least buy a ticket and go support the football team. That's why we want to pay for classes to pay for the tents and the spots, because there's an overhead with this.
Let me say that. You went to Southern. Drew, you went to Southeastern. I went to UL. I don't know any school, whether it's high school or college, where you don't pay for a tailgate spot. So when you saw people like in an uproar, oh, we got to pay for this spot. I get the first year, like I don't forget what year it was, maybe 21. The first year was like, okay, that's the first time people came back home. But at some point it becomes a liability, or the school has to make money as far as we're doing this function at the actual school. So every school I went to, you pay for a tailgate spot. Some high schools you paying $500. I think one of those spots was maybe what, $250. I just understand the uproar when people were just being upset that you had to pay for a spot.
I kind of see his point, and I guess because that's the coach in me, but I kind of see his point about wanting everybody in the game, though.
Of course, yeah.
I can see that point because at what point do we as alumni show our support for the actual kids and not just our desire to party? And I honestly, I gotta admittedly, I never even looked at it from that angle, because I think, you think homecoming, you think I haven't seen these people in years, I haven't seen these people in ages, so you really more focused on getting as much time in as you can. Like you said, there's a lot of these people we ain't gonna see again for a whole nother year. And God forbid, some of them we won't ever see again. But I do see the point about wanting everybody in the game. My thing is how I feel like that connection is lost though between the alumni and the actual school. Like, people, unless they have kids that play on the team, people really just don't care about the Lumberjacks anymore. And that's sad to say, but it's a lot of people that's lost that connection. And that's something that I always say, like, these are the problems that you have whenever a school has lost their connection with their alumni. And that's what I'm always preaching about, is trying to rekindle that connection. That's just like, I fuss about this a lot, but 2004, we get overlooked so much. This is not your fault, but just in general, like the accomplishments and everything that we made. It was so funny because recently, a powerlifting team, a couple of powerlifting members from Bold went to state. They went, they did really. I think it was state. They did really well, and the write up was first ever powerlifting team at Bogalusa High School, and that was one of the most disrespectful things on the planet, because 2004 was the first powerlifting team at Bogalusa High School. That was our senior class, and we actually went to state, 2 people, and we had 2 alternates that could have went to nationals. So it's just that constant overlooking of people who really put in time and energy, to these athletics and sports and accolades and stuff like that doesn't feel the love, from the school system. You're almost treated as an outsider, when you go back. There's no incentive, basically, is what I'm looking for, to when you say, like, hey, support these systems or support this or support that. Like, even graduating from Southeastern, I still get all kind of like communications to say, hey, we're having this event for the alumni. If you can make it, it could be something, just a small gala or something, anything, just to make you still feel like you're a part of the Lion Nation. But that doesn't exist for Bogalusa. It's like, once you graduate, there's no connection anymore.
And it's pretty much like that at a lot of high schools.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a capacity issue to put on events like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't seen a high school that put on galas only for homecoming. I've seen high
Yeah.
schools maybe do something on a Saturday night, like
Mm-hmm.
a high school prom for the alumni.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something, but that takes a lot of work to put on.
Mm-hmm.
And normally your alumni associations will help organize that and put that on, because schools having a hard time putting on homecoming as it is, trying
Yeah.
to plan all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want our fans to come on and have a good time, but we've got to support our students.
Mm-hmm.
We got to support our students. And like, I'm gonna make the challenge again. They can talk about it. I challenge each class to make a donation to any organization within the school system. If you're in the band and y'all want to make a donation to the band, that's what I challenge you. It's ROTC, theater club, whatever it is. I don't care if it's $100. It's going to those students. And you can even say, hey, my class gonna donate $1,000 to the cheerleaders, but we want to spend exactly on this. Guess what? They got to spend it exactly on that.
Mm-hmm.
I
But let
challenge.
me say this, because I know we're getting a little short on time, but I like that idea. I know Drew knows. I don't know if you know Kendrick Allen. He reached out to me, former NFL player, graduated. What was it? Was it 2099, Drew?
I think he graduated. Kenny Ken graduated 98. I want to say.
Well, he wants to start a Letterman Club. I don't know if we have an alumni association, but he does want to start that. And before Dr. Greeley left as principal, we were in the process of trying to get Letterman jackets for this Letterman Club. So I'm gonna accept your challenge. If you can assist me in getting an order of Letterman jackets, so we can start this Letterman Club, and at least we can get black men back in the community, black men back in the schools, and we can start being a part of this. and create this Letterman Club and get things rolling.
You talking about me?
Yeah. Like we want to already start this association. We want to start making these donations. All I need from you is to help us get these Letterman jackets so we can get this association rolling.
So when you say help, in what capacity?
Just give me an order form. Who I need to contact? I ain't asking you to pay for them.
Let me tell you something. Call your auntie, because I got some girls in that finance department. They find the best stuff on Temu for about $10.
No. Wait, no. I don't know if it's Jostens. I don't know what company y'all get Letterman jackets from. That's the form I need. I just need the form.
You get the same quality at a cheaper price.
I'm telling you what I want. I don't want Temu. I want the same Jostens or whoever y'all go through in Baton Rouge. That's who I want, so we can order these Letterman jackets. See, it's a lot of give and take here. I'm trying to start this association.
We're trying to build something, man. You gotta give a little bit, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're starting from the ground, you don't want to spend too much money. Save that money.
No. Y'all not paying for it. We got people that want to buy the same quality Letterman jacket that they had in high school. We just want the form. That's it. We don't want y'all to put no money. We don't want nothing from Temu. We want the Jostens form or whatever form it is.
His name is Steve Haynes. I talked to him last week. I'll get you his information.
Thank you. And
man.
We're going to start that. We're going to just text that information to me. We're going to get this ball rolling. One more question. We got about 30 seconds. Our schools are old. The high school's been around for decades. Do we have any plan?
So we just did a facilities assessment. Our schools are anywhere from 63 to 74 years old between Byrd, Central, and Northside. I want to get those kids out of those schools, but we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it without going to the public for a new tax. And if we do, we got to show that we've been good fiduciary leaders of the money so the public will have confidence in us building a new school. And my dream, and we want to get community input, we're going to do a roundtable, start going around, is to combine Central and Byrd and put it in a neutral site. Because the cost to renovate Central is about $20 million. To build it brand new, about $35, just Central alone. And Central could really fit Byrd students, but it's not built for the elementary level. Mm-hmm. So we want to get a school that's built for elementary students, that has majority of all the bells and whistles, not everything, because that gets more expensive, and we want to build it on a neutral site. So we are talking about it, but that is a process, and it's all going to come down to funding.
Most definitely. I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to have to bring you back on.
Yeah, before you leave, let him get about 20 seconds, just 20 seconds, just to tell the people what he wants to tell them from his perspective, his point of view. It's something that you want the people to know.
I want the citizens of Bogalusa to know that under my leadership, we have nothing to hide. Our office doors are open every single day. If you got questions, come up there and ask. If you want to come up there and look at the books and ask questions, come up there and ask. A lot of times the board meetings, we don't have time to do a deep dive into questions, but our doors are open. We are very transparent. So if you got a concern, we got an email that you can say, hey, I have this concern. Can somebody reach out to me and explain this to me? We monitor it every day. We don't get any concerns. We get some public records requests, but we don't get any people who say, hey, I have this concern. Can you explain me? I do my best to call parents back or anybody back in 24 hours, and I tell my staff to do the same thing. We have an open book. Anything you want to know about the school system, where the money is going, what we're spending this on, come to the office. We'll open the books and let you look at it and explain everything to you.
I appreciate you. Parents, stop looking for them at Walmart and Readers and go to open house and see them. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hurst. If you can, text me over the information, man, so we get these Letterman jackets, not the Temu link. Appreciate you, though, man. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
All aboard the night train.